Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. Awesome to see you, Randy.
Excellent. Great to be seen for sure. Everybody, thank you for watching. This is episode number 124 of Tech Sales Insights. Really excited to have Jeff Depa, the CRO at Gainsight, a company that probably just about everybody knows about unless you've been hiding. And we have a great title topic today, aligning customer success and sales. So it should be great. Also want to give a shout out to Convertive, who is our sponsor today. I think of them, if you go back to the days of kind of VARs and service providers, solution providers like you have now, but really helping you with your RevOps tech stack. They don't actually sell anything, but do lots of great advising and services from big companies like MasterCard all the way down to small companies as well. So if you need help with your tech stack, either it's too big and you got to want to cut your costs and get better productivity, they can help. Or if you need some help, they can also help. And also, as always, brought to you by Sales Community. So for those that are members, thank you so much. If you want to learn more and sell more, Tucker posted the link. So if you want a free membership, you can click on that link to get it. And anyway, so by intro, Jeff and I knew each other back probably when I had hair almost like him. So we're both at Sun Microsystems together. We figured out, we think around kind of 07, 09, but certainly knew him to have a great reputation, very focused on sales, very focused on partners. And, full disclosure, we probably lost touch and kind of reconnected last year. But I've got a couple great intros, and give a shout out to CEO Nick Maida. Of course, I'm prepping last night, and I say, geez, I got to get something better for an intro. So emailed him, and he was very responsive, and even had some back and forth, just clarifying some things. So your CEO says you are super diligent, and an organized executor, best DIY, which is do it yourself, person you'll ever meet. Literally builds everything at home. A literal McGuire, loves a glass of milk. So that was that's pretty cool. So what have you built some cool stuff at home?
Yeah, if you walk through this house, probably 60 to 70% of the furniture is hand built by me.
Wow.
So love doing anything woodworking, anything around the property. So if it uses my hands and I get a tangible sense of accomplishment thereafter, it's a good thing. So probably the most recent was my kid's bed. He wanted a loft bed. So built him a loft bed up for his room. It's actually pretty cool. Even has glow-in-the-dark steps on it. So
awesome, very cool. And then that's a rocket behind you that your son did out of Legos.
So my son follows in my footsteps, loves the engineering, loves building stuff. That's a Saturn V. And he's, when I was a kid and played with Legos, I would get a set and I would make it into like 3 instructions and then just build whatever I want.
Yeah.
He builds everything to the T, to the instructions, and does it super fast. So that was probably 3-4 years ago he got that. And knocked it out like Christmas Day in about an hour. And then he's like, well, I've got no place to put it because he's all these shelves in his room that are already stacked with all these different Lego things that he's built. I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. I love the Saturn V. So throw it up top there behind me. So,
wow, very cool. And what's the deal with the glass of milk?
So I think everybody laughs. I do, like, if you look at what I drink, yes, I do drink alcohol, but during the day, like early in the day, it's a Diet Coke. Once I get into the afternoon, I switch to water. In the evenings, I get to milk. I still love skim milk. Like that's kind of my go-to drink. And we had actually had a happy hour, a Zoom happy hour in the midst of COVID one time. And I came on and it was mid-dinner time. And so I had a glass of milk and everyone's like, why are you drinking milk? I'm like, I like a glass of milk with dinner. So now everyone thinks that I don't drink at all. I do love my red wine. But more often than not, you'll find me with a glass of milk, especially after I'm working outside on a hot day here. I know as gross as that sounds, I love it. So.
Awesome. Is there a favorite Oreo cookie or anything you like to dip, or just straight up?
Just give me straight skim milk. All good to go on that.
Awesome. Great. And then Subar Simeon, who's a good friend and a fellow advisory board member, says Jeff is one of those impressive people who not only has a great track record as a CRO with success in both very large and very small companies and everything in between, but he also manages an active life with wife, 2 kids, and 3 dogs, and probably a lot more. And not your normal list of hobbies, including private pilot, woodworking, which you just talked about, and playing the violin. So the pilot's impressive, but I think the violin's even more impressive. You really play the violin?
These days, I spend more time on the piano, and
Wow.
my daughter is the one that's cranking on the violin more these days. But I'm actually, super excited because they're doing a little bit of what I did in the past. Daughter on the violin, and my son next year actually starts trumpet. So I pulled out my probably 25-year-old trumpet out of the closet, and we got that all cleaned up. So he's going to start taking trumpet lessons, which is kind of cool to see. So.
Wow. Amazing. Real savant there. And you live in Austin, Texas. Cool spot for sure. So you probably get inundated with UT fans and folks, right?
There's a lot of burnt orange around here. That's for sure. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, let's jump into the questions. So after Case Western, what was your first job?
So I worked actually when I was in grad school. And I was a software developer, and that was a great experience for me, especially given a kid at that age, and candidly, the comp for a developer back in the day was pretty good on an hourly rate, and I definitely enjoyed the tech piece of it. But I got to Lower Silicon Valley, and if you want to talk about like my first official corporate job was Sun Professional Services. So Sun picked me up and was the mover of me from the Midwest out to California back in 99, I think, a long time ago. So it was joining Sun and Sun Professional Services, Sun PS West, and that was a really cool time back in that day because it was, think about what we worked on, like eBay when they did their V3 site re-architecture, PlayStation.com, all the big ERP deployments when people are doing these big, tens of millions of dollar, large back-end ERP deployments. So lots of interesting projects that I got my teeth on back in the day at Sun and PS.
Yeah. And in 99 there, that's when Scott said put the dot in the .com, right? His son?
There was .com. There was, the what do you call it? The big frickin' webtone switch. And in fact, I still have on one of my personal laptops some old presentations that Greg Papadopoulos did, talking about, in the future, the consolidation into 3 or 4 primary compute centers, and kind of go back and look at those slides from presentations that we did. And they were all in open office or star office format. So I had to PDF them to actually keep them portable for a period of time. But, 25 years ago, talking about what today is Amazon, Google, Salesforce, kind of these core kind of compute centers that we all hook up to. So it's pretty cool to see a lot of Sun's, premonitions and where they thought the market was going actually come into fruition.
Yeah, great. It seemed like Scott was always just ahead of the time, but then eventually the rest of the world caught up. And then what about your career briefly after Sun?
Yeah, so from Sun to Oracle. So Oracle acquired Sun, obviously, as you know. So stayed with Oracle for about 5 years. Run a couple different sales organizations or sales teams at Oracle, branched out into the startup world, went a little bit in the NoSQL space, worked at DataStax for a period of time. So one of the open source players behind Cassandra, and then moved on to LucidWorks as a CRO there for about 5 years. So LucidWorks is in the search and AI space, and spent 5 years there before coming to Gainsight, and I'm coming up on almost 3 years here at Gainsight.
Awesome. So Oracle, you probably did some work with Mitch Breen, Dave Donatelli, those guys.
Yep. Yeah. There was definitely 5 years. We had a few as we were integrating, and that was fascinating experience. When you look at one of, at the time, probably the world's largest software company and one of the world's largest infrastructure companies coming together, vastly different cultures. And so just kind of navigating that and seeing how that happened. But then even seeing how Oracle grew. I remember one of my first meetings there where somebody asked the question, like, right, and there was an internal meeting, like, everyone raise your hand if you were hired by Oracle. Like, maybe 10% of the room raised their hand, because the overwhelming majority were folks like us that were hired kind of via acquisition and then, kind of grew up in that space. But yeah, 5 years there, learned a lot, definitely an environment that's super focused on execution. And, you talk a little bit about Sun, and Sun absolutely was a visionary. Definitely some challenges in terms of monetizing that vision and bringing that to market. But that being said, Oracle was, definitely the opposite. On my lap, I still have my Sun badge and my Oracle badge sitting here on the desk to the side of me. But learned a lot from both of those cultures, which is cool.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it's amazing. Talked to Donatelli several times with the model at Sun. You basically got to sell every month, every quarter. Oracle wakes up with a good chunk of their business every year, kind of already in the bag. So kind of that net new pressure just kind of allows you to have kind of much a longer term view as opposed to, okay, what's our revenue, OpEx, and profitability? What's Wall Street want? Definitely a nice kind of smoother way to run your work life.
I will never forget the first quarter at Oracle where there was this realization that after week 10, whatever we sell doesn't necessarily revenue. Because especially for an integrated system, you've got a big product, you've got a ship product, there's all sorts of different rev rec rules. And like you're given a forecast, and like, well, wait a second, why are you counting that deal? I'm like, well, that deal's going to come in week 12. Then we went down the path of blood builds and, committing to build equipment. Right. Deal was in, and then it hit my personal comp if that deal failed to come in. So it was a fun time.
Yeah, and week 10 is if you're lucky, and now it's with supply chain, everything else, it's like crazy. Anyway, so very cool. And then how did you get to Gainsight from LucidWorks?
It was interesting when, I was about 5 years at LucidWorks and built out and launched the CS function, when I was there. So started and had a CS team and actually bought Gainsight. So I was a Gainsight user back in 2016, 2017. And eventually, got the call, and I know we all get a lot of calls. I don't take many of them, but what was interesting about Gainsight to me is, that first there's three things that I'm interested in, and it's people, culture, and technology, and it's in that order. So you mentioned Nick. Nick's a force. I think everyone, especially in the SaaS market, knows Nick, knows the culture that he's driven into Gainsight. But I will tell you, going back to, you asked me the question about the first job, professional services at Sun Microsystems. I'll never forget, there was a rep, actually a sales leader at Sun, that once told me, don't confuse selling and delivery. And I always kind of scratch my head around that, because I'm like, look, if you can't deliver it, you're never going to sell to that customer again. Well, you look, in 2099, when you were doing a perpetual license deal, it's one and done. And maybe there's some services on the tail end. You can have that sort of philosophy. But as a services guy, like I had the philosophy that you have to go deliver an outcome. You have to go drive an impact for your customer's business. And so that's kind of followed me throughout my career. And when I got the call from Gainsight, I'm like, all right, like this is interesting. Like it's, amazing people, great culture, and I'm actually selling a tool that helps my customers deliver outcomes. And I'm totally passionate about outcomes. So boom, it's kind of kismet from that standpoint.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And for those watching along, you can, we cannot see you. You can see us or hear us. So feel free to make any comments or ask any questions. We got Tucker behind the scenes, and he'll pull those up. So please feel free here as we're chatting. So you already said a fair amount about Gainsight, but anything else you'd want to tell us about Gainsight?
No, I think, to your point, you mentioned it. I mean, Gainsight is the category creator behind customer success platforms. And, we're out there helping our customers grow through their customers, through their community, through their product. We've got a bunch of interesting stuff. So plug next week, we have our Pulse conference up in Moscone. So great to be back in person. And we're launching some interesting new things. And I'll let the product team talk about that next week. But when you think about driving a personalized experience and ensuring that you've got the right call to actions for your team, and also leveraging things that we're deploying in our Horizon AI to just make your life and your customer's life more efficient. A lot of cool stuff we're going to go see next week. So super excited about that.
Awesome. And then Pulse, that's just the name of the...
It's a Pulse conference, and it is our 10th anniversary conference. So think about it as the big annual community get together for the customer success community.
Awesome. Very cool. And Vincent, thanks for chiming in. He says such an important topic. Absolutely. And Vincent, feel free to ask any questions. So you said a little bit there about AI. So you probably have been leveraging a little bit of AI, but I would imagine next week there's probably a bunch that you're kind of announcing or going to be doing around AI.
Yeah, I will say if you're not talking about generative AI right now, which is probably the most overloaded term out there, but the reality is it's super important. It's taking everyone by storm. But you think about how you can leverage that. And just over the last quarter or two, how I think those at the forefront have started to go leverage that tech. I'm on a number of like CRO community, some community emails even through different investors, and leveraging AI for meeting prep, leveraging AI for customizing emails and things like that. There's a lot of cool ways to go leverage that generative AI. We've got some interesting stuff coming out, and again, I'll let the product team talk about that next week and not necessarily preview it. But it's already built on top of a pretty strong foundation we have in what we call our Horizon AI, and so we've got a number of different features inside of Gainsight. Think about your customer health score. How do I actually optimize a health score and understand where I have opportunity for either expansion or risk of potential churn? And so we have AI tools that allow you to go optimize that health score, backflow test it, and determine, look, if I tweak this score this way, I'll have a higher confidence interval in terms of what my outcomes are actually going to be as it relates to retention, expansion, and cross-sell.
Awesome. And then with your sales process, what's your ICP? Because I would imagine anybody that has customers, which is everybody, kind of from an industry perspective would be everybody, but then kind of what are the kind of executive titles that you're selling to?
When you think about our core ICP, I mean, the center of it truly is, B2B SaaS. But you start to zoom out a little bit, and we've even seen this more recently in just the composition of our business, where nearly every legacy company out there, not all, but many, are turning themselves into quote unquote digital first companies. And I've got a number of different examples of like large agricultural producers that sell seeds and fertilizers and things like this, but all of a sudden are capturing all sorts of data around that, and selling it back now to ag producers as a subscription service. So if you're reoccurring revenue, subscription-based revenue, or you're moving digital first and want to ensure that you are driving an outcome and going to retain and expand that customer, Gainsight, customer success platform is something you absolutely have to have, something you absolutely have to dig into.
Wow, very cool. And then as you're going into some of those kind of new areas, like you said, the agriculture or others, then are you leveraging kind of a different channel or kind of partnerships to help there?
So, and I use the ag as an example of legacy companies that just don't want to give the impression that Gainsight's going into an agricultural business, not the case, but it's a great example of companies outside of our core ICP that, or at least core, B2B SaaS ICP that are kind of moving into the space as they go digital first and create these digital offerings, or they're acquiring companies that have a digital offering and need to maintain that engagement. In terms of kind of, the core channels for us, we absolutely have a fairly large partner ecosystem. And for us, you think about, another one of the overloaded terms, we talked about AI, let's talk about digital transformation. A lot of the large GSIs are focused on digital transformation, customer experience, and ensuring that you can both retain and then grow your customers. Absolutely critical. So engagement across the GSI standpoint. But also if you think about it, and we've talked before about kind of this tech ecosystem. So the integration points between a CRM, a customer success platform, a forecasting platform, a call recording platform, all the different tech stack kind of components that a CRO typically looks at. There's a lot of players that we have, technology partnerships, integrations with, because there's just a coincident type of go-to-market motion or parallel path from an ICP perspective.
Wow. And then what are the titles, kind of executive titles? So in that B2B SaaS, kind of who are the decision
for us? Really, the top is Chief Customer Officer. So CCO is absolutely critical. And CRO now is I would say almost equally as critical, because you look at, and this is one of the big questions that people always have, is where does CS report? Does it report into the CEO? Does it report into the CRO? It all depends, and it depends on your go-to-market motion and a number of different factors. But the reality is in probably half of the instances, I'm meeting with myself as the person that's owning the budget strings that CS is either rolling into, or in many instances, like at Gainsight, for example, my CCO peer, Kelly Capote, she reports into Nick, our CEO. So I don't have a CS organization, but I do have our CAM organization. And that's the organization that's responsible for actually executing and prosecuting all our renewals and driving expansion and cross-sell. So there's a lot of different models that you have out there. So CRO is important as well.